This is the Between Part 5. Let's do a quick threat recap, then we'll do a character recap, and then we will figure out where Dr. Tagore was, what Dr. Tagore was doing during the missing time. There's a really easy answer there because Dr. Tagore has the night work move, so that's an easy way to handle that. But in any case, the threats. So if you all want to follow along on the threat tab, you can do that. Before we get to the threats, let's talk about the mastermind. You are at 5 mastermind clues. That is in the game, that's a big milestone. So that will probably play out in different ways at some point today. In terms of the threats, right now we have Sally No Face, the Limehouse Lurker, and the Coven. So Sally No Face, there are 3 potential questions you can answer. You only need to answer one of them to resolve the threat. But depending on which one you choose, it's either a more complicated question or a more dangerous question, right? The less complicated questions are the more dangerous resolutions. So the questions are, where's the killer hiding? In which case, you can resolve the threat by infiltrating Sally's lair and then capturing or destroying them. That's the most dangerous option. How is the killer choosing their victims, which would allow you to lure Sally to you in order to resolve the threat? Or what is the true identity of the killer and what drove them to this madness? This is the most complex question, but theoretically the least dangerous resolution. You have 8 clues currently, which is a lot. It's a great number for some of the earlier questions, especially. We had a red smudge on Clara's body, which was rouge, not blood. A name is coming up a lot in the investigation, Victoria Callis. Dame Margaret Teasdale claims to have found the Fountain of Youth. We have a clue that is currently undefined, but we'll talk about that. It has something to do with the butcher. An intense smell of very expensive perfume in Dame Teasdale's broom closet. Increasingly florid love letters unsigned to someone named Gregory. The most intriguing clue, I think, a gold embossed card inviting the bearer to an extraordinary new art exhibit. No address was given, but a follow-up investigation indicated that this art exhibit is taking place at a warehouse near Chelsea Harbor. And then finally, rumors of a well-lit townhouse, but no one seemingly inside. And so that is kind of where those are the clues we have presently. We'll talk about that sort of undefined one in a moment, or kind of when we start. The other threat is the Limehouse Lurker. This, just as a reminder, is the one where you know you're facing a vampire of some sort. You know it's in the body of a child. You don't know if it's an old vampire or a young vampire. And that's the threshold question you have to answer. Right now, the clues you have are, in the Turkish bath scene, somebody walked past with multiple bite scars on their calves. There was a Bible that you found, and all the pages telling the story of Noah and the Ark are ripped out. Crude drawings of a Roman phalanx were found in Jenny Johnston's opium den, with some Latin, to conquer the world is my true aim. The man in the sun mask revealed that things in sets of 3 are all missing 1 in and around the opium den, in and around Limehouse. A passel of violently discarded milk and sweets. And then right before one of the killings, a cold, heavy fog, both inside and outside the opium den, settled on in the area. So that's where we're at with the Limehouse Lurker. And then finally, the Coven, the incredibly dangerous Coven, which caused so much chaos last session. There is one basic question, which is when and where will the final step of their grand ritual take place? And you resolve the threat by stopping the ritual and or destroying the Coven. The ritual, according to Mr. Turner, is that essentially what they're going to do, once the ritual is done, all the descendants of like witch hunters from the like 1500s or 1600s are going to be like ruined, essentially. Is that right, Mr. Turner? Something like that.
Yeah, like all of the stuff that they had accrued in that time period will go up in smoke and fire.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's fabulous. Just 3 clues so far. A tarot card, the Tower, was discovered in a bush outside the estate at Rutland Gardens, which is one of the places where the coven was last seen. Street cats have been gathering, staring at the moon. And Mr. Turner had a dream dominated by the color green. And Mr. Turner believes it has something to do with the coven. The coven has also just made several appearances. They actually appeared at Jenny Johnston's Opium Den. It seems like they're kind of following you and kind of seeing what you're up to. They know you're a threat to their plans, and because of Mr. Turner's presence, and so they're sort of keeping tabs on you, just like you're keeping tabs on them. They have done some horrible magic, so we frequently have seen them like doing ritual magic. Like we cut away and they caused one character's tongue to be severed. They tried to do some hexes on Willoughby, like all kinds of like crazy shit. So they're very dangerous. And if you don't take care of them, they're going to continue to be dangerous. And they are working on their ritual. That's there's a time thing there. The ritual will be complete after 6 night phases have passed. You have so far passed 2, so be aware of that. So that's sort of the threat and mastermind recap, a quick summary. You can sort of read the details on the sheet here. Let's just do a quick hunter recap. I just want to know basically, essentially just what conditions do you have right now? That's the main thing I want to know. Let's go with Willoughby.
I didn't think I had any conditions. Oh, I added my own. Nearly hexed.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Tagore, it doesn't look like you have any actually.
No, I think I scrubbed away my desire for the touch of Mr. Turner.
That's right. Mr. Gennadios, what do you have right now?
Still feeling exposed, and I have a hint of jealousy of Mr. Turner.
Last session, was it last session or the session before? In any case, one of the sessions previously, Mr. Turner, because Mr. Turner is most beloved, is drawing a lot of attention away from Mr. Gennadios. So this is an issue. And finally, Mr. Turner, what do you have?
Most beloved and confused. I don't remember what confused was from.
I don't either, but it'll just stand in for a general state of confusion at this point until you get it cleared. Fantastic. Was there anything else that anybody wanted to talk about before we finish recapping? Any other points that came up last time?
I've got a question that kind of ties into it a little bit. The rules are out for people in the Gauntlet Patreon. Mm-hmm. How do you pronounce that word? Patreon?
It's Patreon.
Sorry?
Patreon.
Okay. And I didn't have time to read it at great depth, but I feel like I read a thing that essentially threats not tended to exacerbate in a certain way. Would our players, would our characters know that?
Maybe. I mean, as players, you definitely know, because I've mentioned it a couple times, but you can decide whether your characters know or care about that, right? So.
Last session, we hadn't been pursuing the Limehouse murders, and Jenny just showed up at our doorstep at an inconvenient moment.
Yeah, Jenny just showed up and was like, "What the fuck? I thought you were going to be working on this, right?" Yeah, and like, so yeah, that stuff like that happens, right? Yeah. But also, and you're on a real particular timer with the coven. Like once 6 night phases pass, they win. So that is a thing to be aware of as well. So, and also, yeah, that's a good point. The dapper boy from the Sally No Face mystery broke into the house that one time, right? Because Sally No Face was being ignored. So,
and also after the 6 phases, maybe our house will be no more.
Well, that's right, because you tied Hargrave House to the witch hunters back in the 16th century. So yeah, that's great too. Lots of fun stuff. Anything else for recap before we continue? So we're at a dusk phase. If you all want to try to answer a question, that just kind of happens sort of outside the phases. If you want to do that, you have quite a lot of clues for Sally No Face if you want to do that. Otherwise, we can roll straight into the dusk phase. So
I think we probably should solve something.
Yeah. I think we should wrap up Sally because the coven's on a time period. I say as I'm the one who exacerbated and introduced them.
The nature of all your characters, Fraser.
Which question for Sally No Face is the most appealing one here? The easy one is the first one, but that's the more dangerous one to resolve. So
if we try to identify the killer, it's possible if we go to the art exhibit, we could then confront them. Is that how that would work?
Absolutely,
or do we just need to know?
Yeah, basically once the opportunity is unlocked, so like the opportunity on that one is resolve the threat by empathizing with the killer, then bringing them in peacefully. Essentially, once you've unlocked it, I'll put you in place to have that conversation. So.
Oh, I have a question too. So when we're solving the puzzle, we have 8 now, so we could attempt to do it without a modifier introduced for the last question, right?
If you worked in every clue, yeah.
And then if we didn't like the result, would we all be able to bump it up with a Janus mask?
You all have to mark Janus mask, yeah. And there is a freebie Janus mask because the Mask of Beauty is available on the Sally No Face threat. So, but yes, you would all have to mark a mask in order to bump up the result. So if you're aiming for that last one, you might want to get a couple more clues. If you're aiming for the first or second one, you're probably in good shape now. So.
My best theory is about who the killer is. And so maybe, I don't know, team, do we want to risk it or do we want to have one or more clues?
I mean, I'm always up for pushing my luck, right?
Fraser will always take the more dangerous option, so.
Yeah, I'm up for trying to, I don't know, we should do one of the two, what do you say, 2 more difficult ones, I think.
Yeah, if we don't win, we can always try again too, right?
Yes, but you have to do a different question on threats like this. So yeah, so if you don't get the one wrong, you have to try another one. So
might as well start at the top then.
Let's do it.
So I have a theory that Gregory is actually the killer.
Oh, intriguing. The one who was receiving the letters, the unsigned letters.
Yes. And
okay.
my theory is that he is being pursued by Madame Teasdale, and those are who the letters are from, potentially. She's been writing him, or somehow perhaps passing off those letters from the lady who's so very fond of turquoise. And I think
Theodora,
the reason,
yeah.
Yes, so I think the reason he's been doing this is to fit into the upper echelons of society as a social climber. And he's been perhaps using dark rituals and skin peeling in order to give Madame Teasdale her waxy complexion. I think that Victoria Callis was the body under the stairs, and Madame Teasdale smashed a bottle of her own perfume to cover the stench.
Oh, so Victoria Callis is a victim we don't know about. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay.
Let me add a thing here that Gregory has written those letters to himself, and the reason they're unsigned is that he is trying to find a way to get Dame Teasdale's signature upon them to sort of validate his fantasy infatuation that she does not actually have.
Oh, that's intriguing. That's an interesting wrinkle as well. Wrinkle. So let's take a look at the clues we've got. I mean, I think so far with this theory, you've definitely sorted out that one, Victoria Callis, obviously Dame Teasdale, the smell, the love letters. You have, yeah, I think you've sorted out 4 of them so far, 4 of the 8. your die roll's at a -4 currently. So if you can work some more in, go for it.
Maybe the red smudge on her body is Gregory trying to persuade everybody that it's a woman instead of a man doing it with the rouge.
Oh, that's so it's like a fake. It's like a feint. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. All right. So that feels good.
Rouge herring.
Yeah. And so what? Okay, so we have this like this 4th clue here, which is undefined. If somebody wants to just like define that clue to help it support the theory, I'm okay with that. And then The Golden Boss. So what about the invitation to the art exhibit and the townhouse? We don't know anything about that townhouse yet.
Well, the townhouse is where Sally is doing the procedures, the clinic. And so it's lit up all night because busy doing procedures all night.
Okay, interesting. So that explains why. But presumably, how come no one's seen coming in or out though?
Secret passageway so that no one can be identified as a client.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm pretty well on board with that. What about the art exhibit? What's the purpose of the art exhibit? How does this like serve Gregory's need for social climbing?
He hosts these events to pursue new clients and victims.
Okay, I am liking that. In that case, then just define that last clue and you'll be at a flat roll.
So I think that was from Willoughby's walkabout. And when Willoughby was, gone for a couple of days, they kept hearing, well, if you need a little extra money, you can always go see the butcher. The butcher always has work if you need it. And perhaps that is then tied to the townhouse where perhaps people are shuttling bodies.
Got it.
Victims.
Okay, so that's okay. So we can kind of say that clue provides some context about the townhouse. I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
Can you remind me of that children's nursery rhyme about Sally No Face?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull it up real fast. It's like one of those like street like patty cake type rhymes,
Yeah, I want to try and just put dark meaning into that somehow.
Sure. It's poor old Sally trapped in a fire, her looks burned up without a trace. If you're lovely with fate most dire, she'll come and take your lovely face. So this is looking pretty good. So to summarize, the killer is Gregory, trying to basically insinuate himself into society, providing these sort of like back alley plastic surgery procedures for wealthy women, Dame Teasdale being the most prominent among those. That all makes sense. Victoria Callis is a missing person, killed, maybe, or the body stored, maybe it was like somebody who was like, the procedure was botched, right? And so that's why that explains the perfume, because her body was being hid in the broom closet. So why was the thing being done at Dame Teasdale's then? Why was it Dame Teasdale's broom closet that the body was held in? Why wouldn't it be at the townhouse?
The relationship between her and Gregory, perhaps?
So basically he like trusted her or something to like.
Could be, or she is blackmailing him to continue to do more procedures. She found out about maybe Victoria Callis was a friend or acquaintance of hers.
Oh, that's interesting context. What about these love letters again? What was the purpose of the love letters? Just how does that fit into the scheme? One more time.
Brian, you added a wrinkle.
I added a twist and it may not quite fit. The wrinkle I added was that Gregory had written the letters himself, to himself, like, trying to essentially pretend they're from Dame Teasdale. And they were unsigned, and that he hoped at some point to get her actual signature on them, thereby validating the expressed feelings.
Interesting.
What if it was also maybe he also wants the signature as a sort of like alibi thing or something too?
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I'm just curious then, why were the letters at Dame Teasdale's? Like, is she in on this in some way, or like?
Oh. Sorry, I did not realize they were found at Teasdale.
Yeah, they were found in her study. Like they were like there.
Okay. So what if Victoria Callis was the writer of the letters and Madame Teasdale has them to further the blackmail?
Oh, that's very good. Okay. Oh, I like this. This is good. So I feel like that's the connecting bit here then. So to some degree, Dame Teasdale is the villain here, right? Okay, so this is good. So the red smudge on Claire's body was a fake to make it seem like Sally is indeed a woman. Victoria Callis is a person that Gregory was doing work on, maybe even himself a little obsessed with. And so there's like a jealousy angle with Dame Teasdale as well to some degree. But in any case, it sounds like what happened is the procedure went poorly. Victoria Callis's body was hid in Dame Teasdale's broom closet, which explains the perfume. The love letters are just further like blackmail on Dame Teasdale's part against Gregory. And we have a couple of clues that indicate that Gregory has been seeing more and more people at this townhouse, right? Maybe it's a townhouse that somebody set him up in. I like all that. And the art exhibit is to like find new people, find new victims and or clientele or whatever we're gonna call it. And that's all really interesting, really good. I just want to make sure I perfectly understand the Dame Teasdale, Victoria Callis, Sally / Gregory relationship. Like Dame Teasdale, is it possible that Dame Teasdale was jealous of Victoria and Gregory? Is that like, that feels kind of right to me to some degree.
Gregory did a better job on her cosmetic surgery.
That's pretty good. Victoria was a later subject. I just want to make sure we all agree on what happened to Victoria, basically. Like
maybe Gregory used Victoria to enhance Dame Teasdale.
Oh, like, that's good.
She has Victoria's cheeks. And
then that connects up to like with Clara as well, because we know he's doing that. He's like removing faces, right? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. And so Dame Teasdale basically kind of helped cover that up, but it's also
the materials.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's pretty good. And
I like that too, because we kind of have the insinuation that Victoria was predisposed to Tisdale too, with the love letters. So they kind of like both are in on it, aren't they?
Well, so the letters were addressed to Gregory and they were unsigned. I like the idea of Victoria being like a face transplant donor, willing or not, and her body being kept in the broom closet. That all makes a lot of sense now. That all like really fits. So now I just want to make sure the love letters fit. Like, what was the deal with the letters again?
Didn't we say that Victoria had written them to Gregory? Maybe he met her at one of those galas or whatever.
Oh, okay. And Dame Teasdale's holding the letters
as blackmail because she could turn in the letters as a connection to Gregory.
Got it. Okay, done. All right, now we got it. We have the story now. Okay, good. The story all works. Added a lot of context with Victoria, but I think that's okay. Good, awesome. You got a flat roll. So this may not be right, but it's an interesting theory. Who's doing the die roll?
Welcome back, Brian.
Well, what's our target? Are we doing the how is the killer choosing their victims? Or
yeah. No. You're doing the last one to identify the killer.
We're pushing all the way. All right.
It's flat roll.
So 2d6, yes.
2d6.
That's an 11, is what that is.
Oh, nice.
Boom.
Very nice. Is there a bonus on the 12 plus on that move? Let's see. On 12 plus, the mastermind will reveal themselves while the hunters are pursuing the opportunity. If somebody wants to, but you would all have to mark Janus Mass to bump it up to 12. But if that's worth it to you,
there's a freebie one too, right?
There's a freebie. Yeah, the Mask of the Beauty is a free one that one player can do, and everybody else has to mark from their sheets.
Remind me, just once our Janus masks are all used for a character, that character is retired, yes?
Well, the last box in Mask of the Future is your character's murdered or killed or destroyed. Okay. Basically, once you don't have any more Janus masks to tap, you're much more at the mercy of the dice, right? So.
I want to have the coven off the table before we meet the mastermind personally as a player.
Well, you've met the mastermind. That's Theodora. You've already met her once.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you weren't here the session when she was like there at the ghost cleansing. But this would be the same thing. She would be present for Sally No Face's apprehension.
So we've got approximately what, 9-10 masks to mark normally?
Yeah.
And how often are we likely to land a 12 plus in any other investigation?
Plus, it'll make a lot of sense if she's at this art exhibit if we go, and that's where the apprehension and or reveal takes place. I don't mind marking a mask. I'm down.
Can we mark masks for the other threats?
No, only you have to be like, it has to be connected to whatever you were doing to mark the threat ones. And right now it's just the Mask of Beauty. So.
I'll mark one. I've only marked one so far.
Yeah, you guys need to catch up with me.
I'm over it. What is the Mask of Beauty one? I see it on the sheet, but I don't know what it does.
I will tell you once someone marks it. So.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
I mark it.
All right, so Dr. Tagore, are you going to mark mask past or future?
Sure, I'm up for it. I think I'll do Mask of the Past here and name this lost person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So go ahead and mark them for now. We'll narrate all that stuff later. For now, we'll just deal with the. We'll just kind of continue. So 12 plus, your answer is correct. The opportunity is unlocked. You will be able to confront the killer as Gregory and bring them in peacefully, essentially. The exact opportunity is resolve the threat by empathizing with the killer, then bringing them in peacefully. So that is what you can do. And yeah, so that is on the table and ready to go. And we will see Theodora again as well. So, Dusk phase. Oh, also, I want to resolve what Dr. Tagore was doing. Dr. Tagore, I was going to just let you have an instance of the night move to account for your absence last time, if that's okay.
Sure, that makes sense. We could even narratively explain away me spending a little bit of time in the lab practicing sort of my own techniques for surgical reassembly of bodies, trying to emulate Gregory Sally No Face's methods to sort of learn like how does he
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
remove these faces and then to reattach them.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Yeah, you can do an instance of the night move if you want. So you basically get to choose 3 from your list there. And you can choose more than one body part for the child if you want.
Just a second here. Do we want to? Should I also grab a clue for a future threat here?
You definitely can.
It's not a bad idea.
Go for a clue for a future threat. It says, "Tell the keeper what it is. Give me a little more context on what I should be telling you."
Whatever you want. It's a future threat, so you actually don't have any idea like what it means. You could just think of something cool, and then we'll work it in.
Oh, got it. So not an existing threat right now that we've not yet resolved, but something down the road.
Something you'll put the puzzle together later on, right?
Yeah. A person whose organs are completely flipped from what the normal array is.
Interesting. I shall make a little note here I'll just put it over here for now.
And then let us claim some parts for the child.
Nice.
Go with hair and eyes, since we're working on a case regarding faces.
Give me a little flashback to the moment as you're holding the hair and the eyes in your hand, how it reminds you of your sister.
Oh, it's it's not the color of the hair, it's the texture. I just remember as a child with her learning to braid her hair and running my fingers through it. That you just don't forget the texture of that.
Awesome. I was the basic kind of underlying taboo aspect of the mother is so great, and you have to just sit with it sometimes and be like, wow, he just took hair from a corpse and is thinking about his sister whose hair he used to braid. It's just fundamentally so gross and taboo, but I'm here for it. Good.
You had such a pleasant childhood.
All right, so we are at the dusk phase. All right, dusk phase. Resolve any playbook moves or custom moves that are resolved during the dusk phase. I don't think we have any, but if I'm wrong, let me know. And then let's do the paint the scene question about Hargrave House. We've done the trophy room, the dining room, the music room, and the conservatory. Let's do the library. Everyone gets to answer. Of all the rooms in Hargrave House, none feel more, quote, unstuck than this one. As you enter the library, what do you see or experience that feels a little off?
The walls look like they're almost boiled. So some bookcases are forward and some are back. So it's kind of a rippling sensation that's weird to the eye.
And I think every time
oh, go ahead.
Every time you enter, not only are different bookshelves canted at different angles, the whole contents seem to change. Books won't be where you left them.
I was going to say Willoughby in particular is always picking up books off the floor, but it's a little too similar. So let me keep thinking.
At this, that when you step through the threshold, the globe is always coasting to a halt, as though someone just spun it, even though there's no one in the room.
Very good.
Sarah? I think through the windows, the light's never quite right. So it almost looks like the glass is interfering with whatever time of day it is, but it's always just a little bit darker, a little bit brighter than it should be, given the time of day.
I love it. So now each player gets to say what you are intending to do during the upcoming night phase. After everyone speaks, we get to go around again and make revisions if anybody wants to revise their thought. But everyone speaks once, at least. Starting with Willoughby, what will you be doing tonight, ideally?
Well, I have a question first. Was this the night that was the exhibit that was spoken about on the card?
Yeah,
okay.
It can be. Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Do we, if that happens in the evening, we don't role play it? So I guess I was kind of confused as to.
Oh, well, it's close enough. It'll be nighttime. Okay. It's fine. Yeah. We're flexible on our temporal considerations here. So it sounds like you're going to the exhibit. Is that fair?
I think that's the best plan. Yeah.
Dr. Tagore, what about you?
Yeah, that's kind of a question I had. Are we about to confront the Sally No Face? Sounds
like Willoughby's going to try to.
Yeah, so it seems like if we're trying to empathize with the killer, like me with my surgical skills, I'm already halfway there. So I think I'd like to be involved in confronting.
It could be colleagues, colleagues in grotesque body mutilations.
While we carry away to Scotland Yard, share some of your techniques with me, please. How do you do?
One of you is going to prison, the other one is not for some reason. To be fair, you didn't murder anyone, Dr. Gore. So, Mr. Turner.
I think I'd like to do a ritual.
Oh, versus who, or to accomplish what?
Against the coven. I think that
we're gonna attack the coven.
Yeah, well, they started it. they established that green dream in my head, so I'm going to use that as like a springboard to attack them.
All right, so Mr. Turner's doing rituals while you all deal with Sally, possibly. Mr. Gennadios, what are you doing?
Oh, he'll be going to the art show.
All right, sounds good. Any revisions? Sounds like everybody's pretty well settled on that. So, and now anybody who wants to go ahead and do their Janus mask prompt may do so. You can also wait till later, but if you want to do it now, you can. Let me tell you about the Mask of Beauty. The Mask of Beauty, which was selected by Mr. Turner, but everyone has to do it. Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they felt truly beautiful. Should be fairly easy for Mr. Gennadios, unless you interpret truly beautiful differently than physical beauty. But if you want to do that now, everyone can think on it and do it now, but we can hold it for later.
Sorry, can you say the text again?
Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they felt truly beautiful.
I think mine is a continuation of the last flashback or not a flashback, but a flashback that mirrors what I did in the cathedral when I was behind a screen and sermonizing people. I think that we flash back to a young Turner doing that, but at one of the churches there is a huge mirror that is wheeled out, and only he can see it because he's behind the curtain, but the reflection is an angelic figure instead of himself while he is speaking the words. So it's like a literalization of his voice occupying people's minds.
Nice.
I think I can kind of merge both my Mask of the Past and the Mask of Beauty into one instance.
Please do.
I have to narrate a flashback to my young childhood before I was a servant and show what a charmed life I led. And young Willoughby lived in an estate out in the country with many brothers and sisters, some older, some younger, and many a days were just spent meandering at my pleasure through the estate, through the woods, seeing, just the beauty of nature around me. And an instance in which I felt truly beautiful would be the first time that I was all dressed up in my sister's clothes. And I looked in the mirror and thought that was striking.
I love it. Alexander?
I think I will also combine my Mask of the Past with that. So narrating a flashback to my young adulthood shows the first time I met the artist who fell in love with me. Alexander met Praxiteles of Athens on, it was kind of a setup actually. Praxiteles was looking for a new model, and someone who Alexander knew very well thought he'd be very perfect for the role. And so he was brought to Praxiteles' studio, where Praxiteles spent literal days just going on about how beautiful Alexander was, and having him pose and do little sculptures. And that moment is when he felt the most beautiful and the most seen he ever had.
I love it. Thank you. Dr. Tagore, when were you
picturing Alexander? Like, when did that happen? Oh, in the 70s. No, the actual 70s, not the 1870s, the 70s.
Oh, no.
The 70s.
The
year 70.
370s, 370 BCE.
Right.
So,
I like this idea of kind of tying the two together. Mine is my Mask of the Past is to explain a little more about the person that I lost who's important to me, and it's my sister Dottie. But I'm leaving Bengal, leaving from the port of Calcutta, leaving her behind, I think, unless I've got her stowed in her corpse stowed in the hold. But aboard the ship, exiting the harbor at dawn, just that sunlight crusting over the water and kind of landing on my face, landing on my skin. My hands look so clean in the yellow sunlight, and that fresh sort of salt breeze. It just sort of made me feel better than I had in quite a long time, and I was looking forward to the passage to London.
Nice, I love it. Those were great. Fantastic. And now, oh, we can, yeah, it seems like everyone's pretty well resolved all their stuff, huh? That's great. Now we do the unseen. I introduce it at least. I think we're going to do I want it to kind of match what's going to happen here? Do I want it to kind of be different? Oh, interesting. Let's do the attic at Grinsby House. If you all want to follow along, there's a tab that says London at Night, and the attic at Grinsby House is it's near the bottom. Grinsby House is a fine mansion in Mayfair, but above the grand rooms is a cramped series of attic rooms that is the beating heart of the house, the maids' quarters. Alternating between too hot and too cold, lit only by candlelight, this is the girls' only refuge from their life of service. With shifts the last to bed and the first to awake, there are a scant few hours of silence every night. And the first prompt, we're all going to do that first prompt. The second, third, and fourth prompt, I'm going to just assign now so that you all can think about it on break. We'll do Drew, Sarah, and Brian. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and do the night phase. Here we go. Before we dive into night phase, I do want to just kind of throw out there a reminder about the Old Bones custom move that's still available, that to be used. Dr. Tagore is the only person who can actually do it. So, you know, maybe the warehouses has a ghost or two that are willing to talk Dr. Tagore. But in any case, let's begin with the unseen. The attic at Grinsby House. This is for everyone. The attic quarters are cramped with whitewashed wooden partition walls separating the girls into rooms of 4 or so occupants. What touches of the girls' personalities do we see added to their personal spaces? Whoever wants to go first, please do so.
There's a sheet of penny blacks that have been ripped up and put on each of their desks.
Razor, you say, was it a sheet of what?
A penny blacks, a 1-cent postage stamp.
I think someone has taken an old mop and is using it as kind of like a makeshift like hair cutting practice doll.
Let's keep that whole theme going.
I like the idea that maybe from one of the ladies' illustrated home journals or some sort of newspaper clippings of pretty dresses, and they're just above the headboard's little melange.
Love that.
Picturing somebody who saves all the candle stubs with the intent to pass them on to a family member for illumination at home. So sort of very thrifty.
Mr. Turner, you're doing a ritual, going to fight back against the coven. I think that's good. I assume you're going to be doing this in your ritual chamber.
Oh, of course.
We have a paint the scene question here. Just for you, for now, what do we see in this chamber that tells us vile, macabre rites have been performed here?
Ooh, I like the idea of in the center where presumably there has been like remnants of chalk outlines and stuff. There's also like a little bit of a cratered aspect to that area.
Nice. While you're in the ritual chamber, your presence and sensitivity scores are increased by 1. And also you have to take the condition tainted. So note that now. But you are, this is the place to do the rituals though. Like they're gonna be powerful and they're gonna be big. What are your initial preparations for the ritual?
I would probably take stuff from my cupboard and probably, I like the idea of as soon as they leave, I start taking absinthe and trying to remember the dream that I had, the green dream.
Oh, nice. Good. Do you have absinthe in your cupboard?
Oh, actually, I don't think I do. I
We
have.
go to Willoughby's room and raid some sort of bottle store.
Yeah. Well, I could choose it, I think. There's additional uses, but I have.
Oh, you can write
half
your
of
own.
my-
You can always write your own. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, then maybe I do.
Go ahead and note some absinthe in your personal quarters as well. So. And yes, that's great. So if you want to use that, you'll get a advantage on your ultimate die roll. So we see you doing absinthe in the ritual room, trying to get in touch with your green dreams, hoping to do battle with the coven. What I assume you're going to do rites of salt and smoke. What effect are you going for?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to. Oh, probably observe them to find out where they are.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Hunt them.
I love it. Okay, so preparations are being made. Let's cut over to the rest of the group. You are at the warehouse. You can see it's illuminated from the inside, and I wouldn't say it's a crush of people going inside, but a couple of handsome cabs have pulled up with people very confused, kind of like you. Like they don't even like know what to expect or if they're even in the right place, right? But they have their little gold card. At some point, they must have gotten the actual address. That elegant large carriage, that growler of Theodore Brathwaite's, pulls up as well. And she steps out. She is in her, as she's normally seen, her beautiful sort of like sapphire blue gown, that glimmering sapphire gem in her throat, her hair kind of done up, very lots of detail and finger length curls and things like that. And she says, "Ah, Hargrave House. We always seem to find each other in places that are absolutely pregnant with possibility." But where is young Mr. Turner?
Alexander, who has shown up in, I think it's like a sleeveless crop top kind of tuxedo with like a blood red cravat and a slightly canted top hat, says, "Well, we don't need Mr. Turner to have a good time."
No, I suppose we do not. Mr. Gennadios, that sartorial statement you are making tonight is really something. Is that French?
Italian. And I always believe if you're going to make a statement, make it loud.
And she sort of just like goes to take your arm. She like passes an umbrella and coat back to Willoughby. Doesn't even make eye contact with
Was
Willoughby.
wearing a themed outfit, much like Alexander's.
How does Willoughby look? What is Willoughby's current
Flash
state?
of red, some petticoats, also a top hat.
Indeed, indeed. Dr. Tagore, what are you doing right now?
Scanning the crowd for marks of surgery recovery to see how many clients there are in the room.
So let's go inside. Everyone is at the front. The dapper boy is at the front taking tickets. He is also dressed for the occasion. I think he is wearing essentially like a tuxedo coat with tails and like a white shirt, but he's wearing like shorts, right? Shorts and tall, and long tall socks, right? And he says, "Splendid. I didn't know if you all were going to show up tonight. I'm certain there are not any hard feelings about me and my associates poking around your kitchen."
Alexander will give him he'll go like blank faced for a moment and stare at him and say, "Were there, you would not be here to discuss."
And the boy says, "I am of course very, very happy to see you here, my lord. Don't."
I hand him the umbrella and coat.
Oh, he's very offended by that. He's kind of got this stuff, and he's got your ticket. And he says, as he's putting those things away, he says to you, Mr. Gennadios, he says, "Don't tell my employer, but I don't think their work is nearly good enough yet to capture the striking beauty of you, my lord."
I appreciate your apt conclusion.
And he sort of says, "Well, no dawdling. There's plenty to see inside." He sort of ushers you all in. And inside, the first thing is you hear, so there's basically like a little hallway that sort of turns right and then opens up into the big space where the exhibit is. And before you even turn into the space, you hear what sounds like a string quartet playing, some sort of up-tempo piece. And as you round the corner, you see the string quartet. They're sort of centrally located in the room. They're all in tuxedos. They have their various instruments. Their faces are wrapped with bandages, and there's blood seeping from the bandages, but they are continuing to play, almost like furiously, nonstop. The exhibit itself is mostly mannequins dressed in finery. They have been carefully arranged all over the space. Some of them, you'll notice, have pieces of face flesh or whole faces attached to the mannequin head. There are waitstaff who are also, the waitstaff have like burlap sacks over their heads, so you can't see their faces. And they are bringing drinks and bits of food and things. A paint the scene question for the three of you who are there. What do you see or experience that is beautiful on the surface, but entirely artificial underneath.
There are a couple of like large urns that are like flecked with gold leaf and made to look expensive and heavy, but some of the paint chipping off, revealing just cheap wood underneath.
Nice.
One of the more visually stunning guests goes to adjust, like kind of scratch at her hair, and the entire wig shifts. It's quickly restored.
Along with her eyebrows, right? I think the warehouse itself may have been draped with fabrics or curtains and kind of like sumptuous sort of fabrics. But if you were to peer behind it, you would see the remains of perhaps the stains of a slaughterhouse.
Nice. Let's return to Grinsby House. Drew, a group of girls gather in one room, gossiping in hushed tones about potential beaux, fellow servants, boys from back home, even a member of the household, possibly. Who dreams of true love or desire? Who have escaped from service by marriage, and who remains notably quiet on the subject?
Meredith, who is she's a cold and kind of mean to the other girls, young woman. She dreams of true love, despite her cold exterior. And Eve dreams of escape from service by marriage, but is nearing her 30s and isn't particularly conventionally attractive. And Belinda, who is having an affair with the mistress of the house, remains notably quiet.
Very good, very good. Mr. Turner, let's do your ritual. Rites of Salt and Smoke. Go ahead and roll it.
Okie dokie.
So you're getting, because of the absinthe preparations, if you want to mark that from your personal quarters, you'll get 3 dice, plus your sensitivity is 1 higher. So you have a sensitivity of 3 for this roll. This is about as strong a roll as you can get in the game.
Ooh, but still 5, 8.
Still an 8, okay. You have to also choose a complication from the list as well.
Oh, well, that's really just a blessing, isn't it? I want... Oh. I'm torn between... I want immediate unwanted attention.
Very good. Describe the ritual first. What does it look like? How does this play out? Give us the scene. Give us your best Ava Green in the attic going crazy. Except it's not Ava Green.
Well, I think there's candle stubs peppered everywhere. I take chalk and I draw some sort of intricate pattern in the cratered place, and I think I'm like fully in the throes of the absinthe, and I light a few candles in the distance as like a focal point that like loosens my mind when I'm focusing on it. And my idea is to relive the dream, because if I remember, I cut it when I had tried to open a door and it burned me, or something about the door handle. And so I'm reworking the dream, remembering the dream in such that I can open the door, and through the door is the thing that I seek.
Nice. I love it. Good. And your magic draws immediate unwanted attention. So we imagine this as you like sort of opening the door, right? To look in on the coven. Is that kind of what's happening here?
Yeah, I want to sort of see where their lair is and whatnot, where they're vulnerable.
I will give you the answer in the form of a clue. Maybe. Observe another place or time. Actually, I'm going to just let this be the basis for an information move made directly in their lair, right? So I think that's probably the right way to do it. But for now, you are peering into where they are at. It's wherever it is, it seems to be underground or somewhere especially dark. You can hear water dripping from above, and you smell a wetness. Maybe they are in a sewer, maybe they're underneath a bridge. It's a little unclear. I'm curious, how do you know you're in the right place? How do you know you're viewing the coven's den?
I think because it was hard to step into the place, like a protection of some kind that I had to push my way through like an invisible bubble.
So they had a defensive mechanism up, but you managed to push through it. That's good. And you draw immediate unwanted attention. You will see stepping out from behind a corner, from around a corner, turning to face you, is a member of the coven. You see the heavy black veil. And this member of the coven says, "Your gaze is powerful indeed if you can see into this place, and yet I cannot see you back. Who are you, interloper?"
A nightmare.
A nightmare worse than this foul, stinking city.
At least equal to it.
Do you hope to try to match me right now? Do you wish to see who between us is the more powerful?
Do you fear being shattered? Because that is what would happen to you.
And at this point, they remove from their cloak what appears to be a black egg. A black egg taken from a benighted hen. Do you know what happens if I should crack it?
You threaten me with life?
No. And then she takes like a little tiny hammer or a little heavy fork, and she begins tapping the black egg. What do you do?
I think I still have the bottle of absinthe with me, so I want to take a drink of it in like the real world.
Yeah.
And then in the spectral world that mirrors it, I want to spit it into the flames spouting fire at her.
Oh, nice. Good.
Or
I love
at
it.
them.
Yeah, fair. We'll come back to that. Mr. Gennadios, Theodora has made herself your date for tonight. She says, well, this is really rather something, wouldn't you say? The mind who put this all together must be ordered a certain way.
Disordered a certain way, I would say.
No, I see there's something very beautiful about it. Frightening, terrifying, yes, but undeniably a vision.
I have seen art change over my life, but even I would hesitate to call this art. This is mutilation.
And
Brandy
she
is sulking. They wore matching outfits. So mad.
Well, it's a good question. You have the advantage of just being able to slip away and do whatever, right? Like Mr. Gennadios is kind of tied up with Theodora. What do you do?
I might meet up with Dr. Tagore and see if we can't scope the crowd. Maybe there's somebody drawing a certain amount of attention. Maybe there's a group gathered around them talking about the pieces. Somebody who's a standout, perhaps.
Yeah, that's interesting. Dr. Tagore, what are you doing right now?
In that vein, scoping the room to try and identify Gregory, assuming there's going to be some center of attention where the artist is basking in the glory of their work, chatting up future clients, and want to work my way in, perhaps with sort of I'm such a fan of your work if I can encounter the person.
This feels like it's going to be a night move, and I think the stakes are basically to find Gregory / Sally No Face, right? That feels like the right move here. You're both basically trying to do this, but I only need one die roll.
Perhaps could I assist Dr. Tagore, like in pointing out somebody, or does that?
Yeah, so well, the game doesn't have a mechanical help roll, so like it would just be like in the fiction assistance. But I like this angle. We could just go with whoever has the best stat if you want, because I think this is probably kind of a reason. This is a reason check to sort of see if you can suss out who the person is, because they may not be in the disguise of Sally, or they might be. Who knows? But who has the higher reason between you?
I've got a 2.
Okay, so Dr. Tagore, what could go wrong here if you fail to find them?
Well, they see us and we don't see them.
Yeah, I think it's worse than that. They will lure one of you into the shadows and show you their skill with a scalpel in a way you may not like. So let's have that roll. If you want to press forward with this, let's have that roll.
What do you think, sir?
Oh, you definitely have the higher reason.
Oh, my question was, should we press forward with this given the risk? That was all.
I think we should clear this mystery, is what we should do.
All right. 2 dice, yes?
2 dice. Let me take a look at your conditions. If you have a relevant condition, it might hurt it, but you don't though, so it's okay.
So a 5 adding 2, so a 7?
Yeah. So the move says on a 7 to 9, you do it or hold steady, but there's a complication or cost. I'll describe what it looks like. The complication is going to be that Dr. Tagore, you and only you, are isolated by Sally. Willoughby might be able to show up via My Person Friday or some other move, but basically you get cabined off from the group, Dr. Tagore. If you're okay with that, we can just roll forward with that.
Sure.
So I think you were looking around and I think you hear a conversation coming from, there's like a small, like little side room, right, off this sort of like main central warehouse space that's been kind of done up as the exhibition space. And you hear this conversation that says, "Of course, I recently performed a surgery on a one Dame Margaret Teasdale. She represents some of my very best work, though in truth, I was lucky she wasn't a complete ogress when I started. Renovating a house is so much easier when the foundation is solid." This is your guy. Dr. Tagore, what do you do?
Oh, I kind of, peep around the corner and step in to introduce myself, to say I am a surgeon myself, and I overheard you speaking. I really admire your technique.
And at this point, Willoughby, whether you wanted to step in or not, someone interposes themselves between you and that room. It is the Dapper Boy and a couple of the Dapper Boy's henchmen. And the Dapper Boy says, "I want you to know, I don't particularly appreciate being treated like a servant earlier. That is very obviously your job."
I am so sorry. I did not mean to offend. You were at the door. And I don't appreciate people showing up in our kitchen.
Well, I suppose everyone just needs to learn a lesson in time and place and position.
Manners are so hard to come by.
Aren't they? Are you enjoying the party?
It is a spectacle.
Well, you should count yourself very lucky. People in your particular social position don't often get to take in the arts like this.
My employer and I share a very special bond.
Yes, well, perhaps you can take your special bond and go somewhere away from the main exhibition space where the proper guests are mingling about.
Of course. Lovely to see you.
Mr. Gennadios.
And I'll kind of move towards the corner, but just away from him in general, perhaps towards the corner I saw Dr. Tagore disappear.
Fair enough. Mr. Janus, what are you doing while you and Theodora chat?
I think he'll be looking around for any competition. If there's anyone who has been rendered beautiful by this surgeon, who he might be able to speak to and see what position and role they have.
Oh, how intriguing. What's the goal here? What we ultimately are you hoping to accomplish? Perhaps
finding people embedded in other threats who could come up later.
Oh, interesting. Okay, this is an interesting idea. Do an information move.
I could,
do an information move. Maybe just something intriguing will pop up from another threat.
Reason or presence?
I would say, what's your manner of searching? Just observation or something different?
Probably observation, but also observing how people react to him.
Presence then.
Nine.
We'll come back to that. Let's go to Grinsby House. This next is for Sarah. Shona Muir, one of the chambermaids, is just about to unpin her cap when the servant's bell rings. What last domestic duties is she called to attend to by members of the household as the house settles down for the night?
One or two of the gentlemen of the house had been drinking fairly late into the evening with their cigars, and somebody had accidentally broken a glass and cut themselves, and so there's a lot of blood, and she has to bandage and then clean up the mess.
Good. Mr. Turner, tap, 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 tap. You're attempting to like
blow fire.
do spectral fire at them. Yeah, okay, that's good. I'm here for it. Night move for sure. What are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve?
That well, I guess it depends. I'm worried that whatever, essentially the egg will hatch, but I think at a deeper level, I'm afraid that the thing that will hatch will be able to like assert its dominance over me, basically.
Yeah, I think it's worse than that. The thing that hatches is like a demon, and it destroys you. So, yeah, you can back out of this vision right now to avoid the.
I think not.
Especially because you hold all the cards right now because you're in the ritual chamber, right? So that makes a lot of sense. I do want to take a look at your conditions, though. You have most beloved, confused, tainted. Confused could be an issue here, but I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Just a straight roll. But you do have a sensitivity of 3, so go for it.
All right. 7 plus 3, 10.
Nice. You are going to successfully get this witch out of your way. What does it look like?
So like on screen, we see the miming of me taking a drink from the bottle and then spitting, and I think it like comes out as nothing at first, but then it hits the point where it's the candle a few feet away, and suddenly it becomes fire that like encapsulates the person and encircles them.
Nice. And I think they just run off down this sort of wherever this like dark wet place is. You hear the footsteps and you just see them kind of running like a sort of, what color is the flame? Is the flame green?
Oh yeah. It's got to be green.
A streak of green fire running down like this tunnel. And you are now free to do as you wish with your last kind of moment here. So what would you do after that?
I scream at them too as they run. There's no hope in stagnant waters.
Very good, very good.
And then I'll just try to figure out where this place is, I guess.
Okay, good. We'll come back to that information move roll. Mr. Gennadios. I think you see a group of people in one corner who are all wearing veils. One of them is wearing the dark, heavy black veil of the coven. The others are just wearing sort of like more fashion statement veils, right? And I'm curious, I don't know if you know exactly what the coven, how they appear yet. I don't think you do necessarily, but you get a bad feeling from that person, right? In a place filled with bad feelings, you get a particularly bad feeling over there, right? It stands out. I am curious what you do, though.
I think I'll kind of tilt my head at the woman in the veil and whisper to Theodora, saying, "Do you suppose they're part of the exhibit?"
She says, what was your result on the information move, by the way?
A 9.
Ah, good. She says, The person in the heavy black veil, I actually know them very well.
Indeed.
Yes, I have a meeting with them later on, as it turns out.
And what sort of business do you pursue?
Let's just say we both have very similar aims in life, though we perhaps don't share the same methods for achieving them. I'm hoping to meet with that person and their associates in order to find out how we might be mutually helpful to one another.
Perhaps you and I could be mutually helpful to one another.
Oh, Mr. Gennadios, I don't see that as a part of our future, I'm afraid.
The future is a strange and ever-shifting thing.
Yes, indeed. And for some of us, the future is a very, very, very long, never-ending place.
You have no idea.
And she sort of like gives your hand a squeeze. And she takes her leave of you at that point. Not to go talk to them, though. She just goes to go look at something else. And you find a clue, though. You will notice that there is a trail of water coming from beneath the black gown of this black veiled individual. And the water is moving away from them to somewhere out of the warehouse in a northerly direction.
And is that for the coven or the mastermind?
It's for the coven. Dr. Tagore. Ah, another person of science. The room is very dark, Dr. Tagore. You can't really see anyone in here. You do see a guest, a little nervous, kind of walking past you out of the room, leaving you there with Sally / Gregory, cloaked in the shadows. I know your work well, Dr. Tagore. Very well.
My work is generally under cover of darkness in one sort or another. Tell me if you perhaps have me confused with someone else.
No, I'm quite fond of the darkness. I've seen you. I've seen you taking bits from bodies.
Yes, my work is often with cadavers more than with the living, and that's why I'm so impressed by your own technique. How do you keep the blood flowing and keep the tissue alive while you do your work?
The key is to work fast, and I'm very, very fast with the scalpel. This individual steps out of the shadows. They are wearing a long, pristine white coat with buttons all down one side and forearm length black rubber gloves, scalpel in hand, and a perfectly blank, expressionless wooden mask over their face, just 2 eye holes cut out. What do you think of my work, Dr. Tagore? I think I am currently engaged in one of the most exciting areas of medical inquiry.
It is very impressive, and I can foresee a use in restoring hope to those who've been injured, maimed, and in accidents and warfare.
I care nothing for welfare, Dr. Tagore. I seek beauty for beauty's sake. I seek position. I seek wealth. I seek power. You might consider me a very shallow man at the end of the day. But I love the things I love very intensely, and so that has to count for something.
Well, clearly you're an artist and a very skilled surgeon.
An artist, yes. I like that characterization very much.
Most artists have a muse, someone that they look to, that they love, that they admire. Tell me, what's your muse?
I'm afraid I go through muses like old handkerchiefs these days. My last muse, unfortunately, didn't take well to the knife.
I want to drop a line or two from those love letters addressed to Gregory.
Very good.
The conversation, kind of intersperse those in a way to try and build empathy here, but also I'm so impressed by you, but others are as well, kind of rationale.
Interesting. I like where this is going. I'm going to just put the pen in the scene for now. Willoughby, what are you up to right now? Hanging out with the servants off to the side.
Trying really hard to keep down my dinner because I find all of this very distasteful.
I would like to give you a condition as well, because I'm eventually going to ask all of you, but I like, I'm going to give you this sort of turned stomach condition. Mm-hmm. Mr. Gennadios, how do you feel about the exhibition, having taken it all in?
It's not to his liking. This is the destruction of beauty, not the creation.
Intriguing. Yeah, we'll just let that sit there, I think. Dr. Tagore, what do you think about the exhibit?
Kind of awestruck and looking to poach ideas for my reconstruction on the child. Like there's a way that I can do that surgery that I hadn't even thought of. Oh my goodness, quickly, take some notes.
Indeed. Very good. We'll just leave that there. Let's go to Grinsby House for the last time. This is for Brian. Kitty Saxton and Daisy Warren share a room with a couple of other girls. When all is quiet, Kitty sneaks into Daisy's bed. What comforts do they share with one another? Do the other girls, aware of what is going on, maintain a discreet silence or gently rib them?
Like at the end of a long day's work, they brush each other's hair out in that gentle way, massage sore muscles, rubbing out kind of along their legs, and then since we have sex under a veil here, from there it literally goes under the bed sheets and we see no more. In subsequent days, the other maids make little allusions, sort of good-natured, in like when is it called a tieback for a curtain? The fabric that kind of, is it the right word? When they find one that's a bit too frayed, somebody will say, well, Kitty could braid that quite nicely. Or someone might say, Daisy, will you go to the kitchen and check on the status of the tender loins? Small references like that. When someone complains about the water in their glass being stagnant, they say something like, what's not, like one maid will whisper to another, what's not stagnant? Daisy's bed sheets.
Very good, very good. Mr. Turner, do an information move.
Is that with a reason?
No, sensitivity.
I like that. Barely a 7.
Indeed, indeed. What are you looking for exactly? How are you searching? Like, as your consciousness floats through this space, what are you sort of keeping an eye open for?
I'm looking for landmarks, like if there's windows, then I could sort of get a geographical location and try to triangulate, or any kind of like potent or pungent things that stick out that I could place this place in reality.
I don't think you have any luck with that, but you do find a blue door. It stands out from the rest of the space, which is quite dank and dreary and dark. It's a perfectly brilliant azure blue. And no matter how hard you try, you can't walk through that door. No amount of your power or consciousness can pierce it, can get past it. I'm going to give you the condition frustrated, but that is your clue, a blue door that you cannot pass through. You're muted.
Oh, I have 3 conditions, so what do I do?
You must erase, you have to replace one of them and mark your mask of the past or future.
Oh, okay, I'll mark confused. And what was it again? What's my condition, the new one?
The new one is frustrated. And you have to
Does
mark Janus
follow.
mask. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll mark the past.
Very good. And I think the sort of frustration of not being able to pass through that blue door just yanks you out of the ritual, right? And you're kind of like thrown out of the rite, but you're there in the ritual space. You know, maybe we see you breathing heavily or whatever. And then we cut to Willoughby. Willoughby, the dapper boy, comes up to you and says, I was wondering if you would care to join my associates and I in a rousing game of dice outside.
This is me just staring at him.
It's a peace offering between us. Very well. If you change your mind, we'll be outside enjoying ourselves tremendously with dice. And he turns and marches off.
I may wait a fashionable like 10 minutes or so and then go outside to see what they're doing, but I haven't decided yet. I don't know if they're going to just jump me for the fun of it, having been attacked a fair number of times. I just am a little bit more cautious, and boy, do I just want to give that kid attitude.
Fair enough. Mr. Gennadios, what do you do after you spy this strange trickle of water coming from this veiled individual?
I think he's going to have to follow it, but as he goes, I think he will pass by and comment on a woman wearing a dress and the corset, or what's it called? The corset, I guess, is all penny blacks stamps in nice even rows, and he'll just give it a stare as he passes by.
Nice. Honestly, sounds like I'm not gonna go into it, but like on Drag Race, one of the like lazy ass things that the queens do if they don't know how to sew is they take a corset and they just like glue shit to it. That's basically what it like, reminds me of. I love it. I'm sure this is much more artistically presented than
Or actually, her lips and tongue are all swollen from licking
looking
all
else.
on just before this.
Good.
Yeah, bitch didn't have a glue gun.
I love it. Okay. Well, then let's just wrap up with Dr. Tagore. I will tell you that water will lead outside, and it gets intermingled with other street water, and you can't really learn much. You just know that it's physically moving in a northerly direction, which is the clue. Dr. Tagore, you got your last chance here to kind of talk Gregory down before the night phase ends. So what's your move?
Ooh, I've got a half-baked idea in my head to kind of exploit the old bones move, and
Okay.
Tell me if this works well, and if not, we'll just throw it out and try something else. But I'm picturing Sally No Face going kind of threateningly, aggressively forward with the scalpel. Me backing up until I actually bump into the building physically, kind of grasping at drawers or cabinetry or whatever the hell's behind me, and in that releasing a spirit. And this spirit somehow being visible to Sally No Face and cracking them to a point where they realize the error of their ways and are willing to turn themselves in.
Intriguing.
I feel like I'm missing a little bit of.
I mean, the opportunity is empathizing with Gregory to get Gregory to give this up. I like where this is going, but I'm curious what will the ghost do? What is the?
I mean, it could simply be the ghost of Victoria Callis.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. I think that's quite good.
It seems like almost a throwaway of the old bones move in a way, but I think
no, I love it. I think it's good. I think making it Victoria is the key there.
Okay.
Let's do old bones. So I love the way you've set this up. Gregory's probably going to get tired of this conversation eventually and attack you. And so that works for me. Where do we have the text? Do we have the text of that move anywhere?
It's underneath my character at the bottom.
Okay.
So Hunter is below the
Also in the reference tab.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if it was there.
So touch listener, otherwise attuned to a building's architectural details, roll sensitivity. On a hit, the ghost will appear and answer a question, or in this case, perform a small task.
Let me take a look at your conditions, because you do have the cosmic passage mark, which is a prerequisite. But you don't have any. Oh, you have the awestruck. Awestruck by gruesome surgical methods. I don't think that's going to affect anything. So go ahead and roll sensitivity.
You get the 1, right? Yeah. A 12.
Ooh, nice. Good.
11 plus 1.
Very good. Regrettably, there's no 12 plus condition on this, but the ghost will not ask for anything in return. So that's really good. Wrap it up. What does this look like? Give us the scene.
We have not established any narrative details on how Victoria exactly died yet, right?
It sounded like what we established was Gregory tried to take her face for Dame Margaret, and she didn't survive the procedure.
Yeah. All right. So as I stumble back, I grab onto a curtain and yank that curtain down. Just tear it off the rod, and there, right behind this window, is Victoria Callis. Blood weeping from her face, and she whispers, almost pleads, says, "Gregory, my face. I need you to return it."
And he sort of says, "Victoria, my love, I meant only to honor you, to ensure that you would live forever through my work. And I think at this point, he takes off his own wooden mask, revealing his face. There's nothing particularly special about it. And he collapses to his knees and he says, "What have I wrought with my hubris? What have I done?" He looks at you, Dr. Tagore, and says, "Do you suppose there's salvation for me? Do you suppose I can be redeemed?"
Certainly, societal standards are shifting. Surgeons are relatively new in the world, and I think future generations will see how groundbreaking your work has been in promoting a new aesthetic ideal for humans and what we're capable of.
What will become of me for now?
Study with Scotland Yard. I have some contacts with Scotland Yard who can perhaps give you texts to study in the meantime to reflect on your work. I'm told penance is good for the soul. I myself am not so sure whether it exists or not. I seek to learn that.
And so I just think we see, like, as a little closing shot on this night phase, you taking Gregory to Scotland Yard, to Whitehall, to like turn him in, basically, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. And on the carriage ride, grueling for as much information as I can get on technique.
Yeah, I like that. I think this is right.
Like to a level that's almost inappropriate.
I think he would like say, as he's being taken in, as they're kind of, putting him in shackles, he will turn to you and he'll say, "You should come and visit me at Bedlam. I might be able to give you some insight into your own work, Dr. Tagore."
Sounds wonderful. Why don't you let me hold on to your scalpel for you?
Well, that's actually one of the rewards, so we can talk about that in a minute.
The carriage just drives past Willoughby shooting dice and passing around the cross and yelling.
Right, yeah. They were totally going to jump you, by the way, if you had gone out there. Very good, very good. That's the end of the night phase. Let's do the dawn phase real quick, and then we'll take a break. All right, so dawn phase. Collect rewards. We do have rewards here. So the Sally No Face rewards are the following: Sally No Face's wooden mask, which you can add to your personal quarters. Sally No Face's scalpel, which you can add to your personal quarters. It sounds like Dr. Tagore wants that. A mannequin, which you can add to your personal quarters. A victim's face, which you can add to your personal quarters. Or there are two mementos, just generic mementos from the investigation. You ask another hunter what it is and then add it to your personal quarters. But we have several named ones there, if you all want a named one.
What is the first thing?
The mask, the wooden mask that Gregory wore.
Mannequin, please.
You can take the mannequin, yeah. Just add it to your personal quarters. Dr. Tagore, sounds like you're taking the scalpel.
If that's okay with everyone else, yeah.
Mr. Gennadios, what do you want?
I think maybe I'll go with the mask. Maybe he can go undercover with it.
Fair enough. And Mr. Turner, do you want a victim's face or just another memento from the investigation?
I think just a memento.
So pick another player to say what it is and then add to your personal quarters.
Don't pick me. I'm just going to say a victim's face.
Okay, I'll pick Drew.
One of the fake pieces of art with it's actually chipping off and there's wood revealed underneath. Maybe it's a little stylized anatomical doll.
Awesome. And then after we collect rewards, if anyone, let's do dawn questions, actually. So you answered a question and resolved a threat. So you're both going to get credit for those 2 dawn questions. Now let's go through the echoes in the night. Willoughby, did you experience an echo in the night? The bloody.
I attempted to with the blood and
I caught that.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really good. That looked good in my mind too. It was great. So you get an XP for that as well. Dr. Tagore, did you get an echo in the night?
I was aiming for one with the wig and the mop.
I got that. Yeah, I actually picked up on that. I thought that was very clever. Yeah.
And then I tried to throw one to Mr. Turner, to Fraser with the stagnant water.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got credit for the one. You you got the one, so you're good.
I was more just sort of offering that up.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, so Mr. Turner, did you get one?
Yeah, I did the candles.
Yes, very good. And Mr. Gennadios.
The super subtle stamp corset.
Yes, yeah, the stamp corset. I thought that was really good, actually, but I just couldn't help but think of like the non-sewing drag queens on Drag Race who just glue stuff to corsets. Good. Love all that. Let's go to the individual dawn questions now. So Willoughby, did you ensure your employer got credit for your triumphs?
No,
Think that
but
quite
I was
happened.
no. But I think that I did subtly express a sexual desire for my employer, probably in dressing him in that outfit or dressing him like.
Yeah, I think it's like there's desire was implied for sure. You can take credit for that. Dr. Tagore, did you put your hands in a pile of guts and love every moment of it?
Fortunately, no, and I really should have exploited that.
Yeah, and you didn't have a conversation with the child either. That one's really hard to do. You have to frame up for that one. You have to be like, I am now talking to the body of the child.
As you're braiding its hair.
Yeah, but it's a good scene for sure, if you ever decide to do it. Mr. Gennadios, did you appear in London society wearing risque or avant-garde fashion? Yes. Did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so? No.
I don't think so.
And Mr. Turner, did you counsel someone using your supernatural affinities? I don't think so.
I did warn that person before I lit them up.
No, I don't think that counts. And did you make love to a human in order to forget the darkness? I don't think you did that either. Yeah.
Nope.
Let's continue on with the dawn phase. Mark new elective dawn questions if you wish, or leave either or both the same.
Oh, but we do get to mark for resolving a threat, right?
Yeah, you get the first 2, the answering a question and resolving a threat, because you did both of those.
Great.
And does anyone have Janus mask that they want to do right now? I think it might just be Mr. Turner, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, so make sure I'm doing this right. So for XP, we should mark for answering a question, resolving a threat.
Yes, because you answer the question for Sally, and then you resolve Sally. So.
Okay, so that brings me to 5.
Yeah, if you had 3 before, then yeah, you have 5.
Okay. I will narrate a flashback to your young adulthood that shows your first sexual encounter with a dark entity. And so I think it's a continuation of the scene before, where he was made to light the candle and pray for a very long time. And I think and I showed that the candle, I think, grew more brighter as the father left. But I think as it became more brighter, Turner sort of wonders at what that means, and he crawls into his bed, which has one of those huge mirrors like he has in his room now as well. And we see the light from the candle grow and grow, and Turner grabs it and cups it in his hands and puts it in the bed with him. And out of the light comes like an angelic like figure who is very much like those, I think it's Renaissance paintings. I'm not sure what age it is, but where they look very beautiful, but also like really muscular and like imposing and a little bit scary, a little bit beautiful, basically. And the angel proceeds to yeah, like make love to Mr. Turner, who is a willing supplicant to it.
I love it. If there's nothing else during the dawn phase, we can take a quick break, take 5 minutes, and we'll come back and do a day phase. It is the day phase. I think several days have actually passed since the art exhibit. And give me
I
one
have
moment.
a question
Sure.
for the coven purposes.
Mhm.
I have a little tracker now and I'm marking stuff off. We have 3 night
It's just
phases
3,
left
yeah.
now.
Yep,
Okay.
3.
Before everything evaporates into smoking nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. You're sounding quite suddenly echoey or something. Is your mic not in the right place or something, maybe?
Much better?
Much better.
Good. I had my shit on backwards.
Yeah, fair enough. So, day phase. I like this little phase switcher. It's pretty cool too, Drew. Oh, we have less than 3 active threats now. So that means a new one is being introduced. That threat is called Figs Pigs. Most beloved, Mr. Turner. Because you're the most beloved, Mr. Turner, the Fig family sent you one of their famous Figs Pigs, a meat pie with a little pig stamped on the crust. You were enjoying it. It was delicious. Before realizing it contained human meat, what gave it away? Mr. Turner.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Oh,
I was
that was
writing a clue down.
No, sorry, it's okay. I shall read it again for your sake. The Fig family, this is because you're most beloved. The Fig family sent you one of their famous Figs pigs, a meat pie with a little pig stamped on the crust. You enjoyed the first few bites. It was delicious before realizing it contained human meat. What gave it away?
Well, human meat is like pork, so I imagine it would taste pretty good. But maybe there is a bit of skin, maybe that's like freckled, like English skin is very white and pasty and freckled or something like that. So
Oh,
something like that.
I like Brian's suggestion. It has a tattoo.
Oh,
that's how you know for sure.
sure. A little like the start of some kind of tattoo, like maybe a dock worker's tattoo, like an anchor or something. Yeah,
That's
what I was
perfect.
thinking too.
Yeah. So a bit of skin with a tattoo on it. Undercooked, it seems like, inside the pie. So you all called Scotland Yard and Mr. Fig, the pie baker, was arrested. His wife and 2 sons managed to escape capture. Mr. Fig is being held at Bethlehem Royal Hospital. He won't tell the inspectors anything about where his family might be, though he has been singing a little song about them whenever asked. Sing a song of 3 figs, the apples of my eye. Snatch a bunch of long pigs and bake them into pies. First comes little Patrick, about on paw or hoof. He thinks he's an animal and has since troubled youth. Obert the blade has fine taste, more than most I know. It has to be the right pig, see, the meat must be just so. My love, la bella Hortensia, the gravy to my crust, to hold that which she loved and lost, she'll do what she must. Sing a song of 3 figs, their names you all now know. You'll see them down old London town, and in the sack you'll go. Amazingly, Scotland Yard has asked for Hargrave House's help in capturing the figs. They want to keep the investigation of the figs pie shop in Shoreditch fairly quiet, without official police presence, so as not to set off a pie hysteria throughout the city. You have come to the conclusion that Mr. Fig's song is a guide for how to find the other figs. It has helped you form some questions, the answers to which will lead to their capture. There are 3 questions in this threat. All of them have to be answered, and all of the opportunities have to be resolved. They are: what kind of animal does Patrick Fig think he is? The opportunity: lure the animal out in the open and then capture or destroy him. Second question: what type of victim does Obert Fig prefer? Opportunity: lure Obert Fig to you and then capture or destroy him. Last question: what did the mother, La Hortensia, Fig, lose that she's trying to recapture or remember? Find La Hortensia and then capture or destroy her. So those are the questions and the opportunities. They each have complexity too. Individually, they're not hard to do, but you have to do all 3 of them. And the best place to begin this investigation, we got 2 options. You can go to Bedlam, where Mr. Fig is being held, or you can go to the pie shop, which has been, Scotland Yard is like actively not searching it because they don't want to set off any hysteria, like set off alarm in the city. So they kind of want a sort of under the radar approach on this, which is why they've asked you. And so we are in the day phase with a brand new ghoulish threat. I shall fill in some of the details on the figs here as we have time. And that's figs, pigs with 2 G's. The pig has 2 G's so that it's a long pig. And so, as always in the day phase, we just follow you all. I follow your lead. Whatever you want to do. You want to have scenes to get the vulnerable move going, to clear some of these conditions, that's great. If you want to begin your investigations, that's perfectly fine. If you have something else in mind, I'm open to it. But let's just go around the table and find out what everyone's interested in doing first. Mr. Turner.
Yes, I would like to clear a condition, possibly with somebody else's advice, since mine's difficult, but we'll see. I have another kind of out of the box idea about sex with dark entities, if somebody else isn't interested in something like that.
Okay, so you're angling for a vulnerable move. Mr. Gennadios, what do you want to do?
I think I'd also like to clear a condition. So maybe I could team up with Ives. You could go take some pictures.
That sounds good. Okay, so that seems like a pretty good scene. Willoughby, what are you interested in doing right now for the day?
I also need to clear a condition. So if somebody is fancying some brandy, I am only able to request
with Alexander.
with my employer. So I was going to see how everybody kind of fell.
I mean, Mr. Turner, maybe you could have some brandy with Willoughby, and then that would be, the angle there as well.
Does it have to be a one-on-one?
It has to be one-on-one. Yeah. Dr. Tagore, what would you like to do for the day phase?
Let me ask one other question about that condition clearing business. Has to be one-on-one. Is that the only move for the day phase for those players?
No. I'm gonna give you each like 2 scenes. So.
Okay. I'm not against clearing a condition, but it wasn't my priority. I was actually curious to basically find more clues on the coven, but my thought was initially to try and figure out why water would be moving in a northerly direction, to like analyze city maps and hydrology and figure out what's going on.
I think that's great. Fabulous. Well, so Alexander, it looks like you might have gotten boxed out of the vulnerable move there, unless you want to have just another vulnerable move scene with another character.
I can participate in a vulnerable move scene. I'm not against it. So that's, if we're doing 2 actions, I'm happy to do that.
More Turkish baths,
or memento mori photographs. People with scars on their ankles.
Yeah. Okay, well, so then let's frame up the scene with Mr. Turner and Willoughby then. Mr. Turner, where's the scene taking place, and what's happening?
So yours is Brandy. I was thinking maybe we could maybe not day drinking, but maybe we could go to an establishment to eat and have some brandy as well, since we don't often get out. To like a pub or something like that.
I know a place.
Very good, very good. Well, let's just have the scene then. Just role play for a bit, see how it goes.
Maybe I use I was thinking it would be a good opportunity to fill you specifically in on what happened with the ritual. And I like the idea of it taking place in a public place, just because it would be unsettling for other people to overhear.
And I will tell you that since it's your advice, Willoughby, you'll get to either find a clue, or you can invite Mr. Turner to ask you a question about your past as well. So,
and I did put the blue door as a clue in the coven. I was able to do that, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I would just recount exactly what happened, possibly embellishing a little bit with the fire.
Well, you already know about my encounter last time in the basement of the limehouse, and I am still very shaken by all of these dark magics, because up until this point, Willoughby did not necessarily believe in witches. This was not something that I thought was real. Ghosts, fine, sure, but magic users, your obvious exception. I would probably continue to talk very quickly about all of the panicked responses I had about witches until I take another sip of brandy. Is this common for you?
It is not something I am unacquainted with, but we all encounter things that we find impenetrable, just like that forsaken blue door in the basement. That is the unsettling element for me. I have not run into something that I could not open, and these creatures keep placing these items in my mind.
It's strange to me that all of your interactions seem to be quite literally colored.
That's true. Things are not so black and white in my world.
Oh, that's too droll. Are you able to help me protect myself? I was able to fend off these creatures once, but I truly am very shaken by the experience, and I feel like I have no idea how to protect myself.
Well, let me know if I can't do this, Jason, but I could recommend that you find something in the ritual or the witch's cupboard, because it said, I believe.
Yeah, the other players can take from your witch's cupboard and add things to their personal quarters.
Yeah, so there you go. But it does taint them, I think, right?
No, I think it's just
okay. Oh no, the ritual chamber.
Yeah, the ritual chamber does.
Yeah.
The move says specifically, You have a cupboard in Hargrave House containing supplies needed for rituals and remedies. When you take this move, choose 3 or write your own from the highlighted dropdown and add them to your personal quarters. You added them to your personal quarters, right?
Oh no, I just put first uses.
Oh yeah, you can transfer all those things to your personal quarters so that you can get dice credit for them. You can leave those there, but then just like add them to PQ. And then there are 5 additional uses that can be used by you or other players to add to their personal quarters.
Okay, so Sarah could define an additional use case.
Yeah, or pick from the list as well.
Yeah, and then so you could just choose one that maybe you think would help ward against these things that you fear.
Scrolling, buffering.
Yeah, there's a drop down there. You can just see what all the different things are.
Well, I will do that at some point and find a protective charm of something that might give me peace.
Fair enough. How are we looking on conditions? So what conditions are getting cleared right now? You each get to clear one.
I was thinking of clearing frustrated because I vented about the door and how annoying that was.
Cool.
I would like to clear nearly hexed, as I now have a solution for my witchy troubles.
I love it. And what bonus do you want here, Willoughby? Either a clue that you define, or you can invite Mr. Turner to ask you about your past.
Notably, Willoughby has not been touching their food. I've just been moving my food around my plate and drinking and not necessarily eating. You do notice that. But I think a coven clue might be kind of useful to us. So I think I would do that.
Okay. You get to define it if you want to just put a note there for now that you're owed a clue.
Yes.
And anything else in the scene? Or are we good? This is good.
Maybe just close off with the people watching us very unsettled.
Just a lot of side eyes.
Indeed,
gasps
indeed.
behind napkins, that kind of thing.
Mr. Gennadios, frame up your scene. What's happening?
I think he's out for a stroll with Dr. Tagore, perhaps heading to the local morgue. Alexander has his a big boxy bag wherein his camera lies.
You can add that to your personal quarters if you want.
Ooh. He's planning on practicing his hobby.
Let's have the scene just approaching the morgue at this point, or approaching the mortuary. You might see Pate, if it's the same district, and he says, "Oh, Mr. Gennadios, here to take some more photographs."
One doesn't perfect their art in one instance.
Well, we have some real lookers for you today, and by lookers I mean the murderer didn't do anything to their face. All the gore is happening from the shoulder down, blessedly.
Always a pleasant surprise.
Indeed. And Pate says, "Dr. Tagore, it's always so strange to see you in the day. When do you sleep?"
Oh, that's a fabulous question. Caffeine does wonders, and occasionally a little jolt of cocaine.
And he lets you go in. He's going to have a smoke since you two are in there, so you can watch the place. And yeah, you're there with all the drawers and the bodies at your disposal. Yeah, just have the scene. Dr. Tagore, if you want to grab a body part, I'm totally open to that as well.
Okay, I was going to say I'll be happy to experiment. From my experience, just start pulling open drawers with bodies, and hey, let's take a look at this one. Shall we prop it up? What do you think? Is the lighting good?
The trick is to position them in such a way that they could be merely sleeping. You want a peaceful, natural, resting expression. So perhaps not this one.
Chair. He won't mind.
He is rather accommodating, your friend.
Yeah, we worked together for a while. He's just keen to help, one of those eager to please sort of people. Can we perhaps together lift and position a body into the chair at Pate's desk?
That's great. I know he'll kind of, they'll set it up so the body's got its legs crossed and kind of looks like it could just be taking a break to consider something. And
a little book in his hand or something.
Yes. And he'll position the camera and get behind the little curtain and he'll say, "This one looks somewhat like Dear Mr. Turner, wouldn't you say?"
Yes, I see your point. Yeah. The hair, the angle of the nose, not, a bit more neglected, not quite so beloved.
Yes, he has been getting quite a bit of attention, hasn't he?
Yeah, I can see where that would be frustrating for you. As soon as that one becomes accustomed to being the center of attention, and to have that diverted might make you feel neglected.
Neglected. Not the word I would use, but somewhere along those lines.
Willoughby to attend all your needs. So yeah, faithful servant gets one through a lot in life, I find.
And where is he? But with Mr. Turner.
Gads, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up.
Willoughby. Yes, it seems I am all but abandoned. I am grateful to have your company.
Yes, you have me and our esteemed guest here, and I'll gesture to the corpse in the chair.
He'll lift the toe and say, "Yes, Edgar." He is not a good conversationalist, but I appreciate his stoicism.
What is it you find in these recordings, the visual recording of the deceased? To me, they serve a different purpose.
They have crossed a barrier that I have never quite approached. It is intriguing. They know a kind of rest that is foreign to me.
For me, that flat silver plate is lifeless in itself. I prefer the physical form.
I would like to suggest also that, just if I can interrupt momentarily, what Alexander just said would be a terrific entree to ask a question about Alexander's past, right? I mean, just this idea of like, it's your choice, Drew, but it feels right to me. Yeah, because you get to do that. You also both could clear a condition as well. But
all right, so ask a question. Might ask a question about your past, or you? Sorry.
Yeah. Basically, the vulnerable move, because it's Mr. Gennadios's vice, the memento mori photographs. He can invite you to ask him a question about his past, which he can answer as truthfully, but as completely as he wishes. So.
Got it. Let me just be vague here and say I don't take your meaning. You've never suffered a close call and a near miss, an accident.
Oh, I've suffered a fair bit of those, but
surely a person of your age, so hale, so healthy, you have many years yet before you show the signs of aging.
One can only hope.
Where were you born, Mr. Gennadios?
Athens.
I want to know that too. Good.
Athens. Oh, I'm told it's a lovely town. I've not seen it, but I'm sure I've heard it's fallen in modern days from its ancient glories that we hear so much about.
It was glorious. It's been quite some time since I've been back.
You speak almost as though you remember it personally. You do a lot of reading on the subject, I take it.
I have done a lot of reading, yes. There is much of the past still much of the past that still lingers, both in Athens and outside.
So what conditions are we going to clear here?
I'm going to clear a hint of jealousy.
I suppose I can overcome my awestruckness with gruesome surgical methods. A bit of reflection on the use of photography and the nature of the deceased.
Indeed. And I think we'll do one more scene with each character. If you each want to like kind of just say what you'd like to do for the rest of the day phase. It could be with another character, or it can be by yourself. Mr. Turner, what do you think?
I have an idea for a scene that might be a little too metagaming. So I have principally, I want this scene to be an interesting way of getting a clue about the coven, but I think the way in which I go about it could technically meet my vice of sex with dark entities, and it could be in a public way that any character could come with me and do this as well.
Do we still need to clear more conditions? Are you just trying to get them cleared?
I have tainted, and I think it'd be an interesting way of clearing tainted. I want to sermonize somebody who is going to be hanged this day, and so infect them with a dark entity in doing. And then when they are being hung, I want to ask them a question as they are dying to get the answer for the clue.
And we're to interpret the hanging as a sort of like kink thing, right? Is that the idea?
Well, I think the sex with the dark entity is just when I sermonize them, giving them the last rites.
Okay.
They're infected with the
got it. That's
the will.
The metaphor, right? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Mr. Gennadios, do you want to show up in this scene?
Sure.
Set up the scene, Mr. Turner. What's happening in the beginning?
I think when we're all back at some point, I simply just invite everybody to a public hanging that is like I have a news clipping and I say that there's a public hanging and I'm going to go to it. I'm going to give them last rites, and it might be an interesting, I don't think spectacle is the right word, but something of interest that anybody who is willing could come to.
I'll grab my camera.
Indeed. Well, so let's say you're there, then what?
So I don't know if you want the scene to be particularly that, but I would sermonize them, giving them the last rites probably at jail, I'm assuming.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and through the bars, I would give them the last rites that is twisted, such on its head that it essentially, if by doing so, when they instead allow God to enter them, they're allowing the dark entity to enter them instead. And so maybe while I'm sermonizing, we get the telltale swinging of a light or something growing brighter above their head. And then when they are brought out to the gallows and hung, I make sure I'm in the like close to them, because I don't know if it's, I think I've seen on TV or something that the priest is allowed to be close, and maybe the priest is the one who says if they're dead or not, something like that.
I like the idea of you just being there at the gallows. Yeah.
So that when they're hung, I just pose the question to them,
and not many people are there, if I'm being honest. This is not the American West. This is civilized Victorian London. But you can be at the gallows, certainly. And Mr. Gennadios, it sounds like you're at the gallows as well.
Yes.
Let's just have the conversation with the hanging or with the sentenced, like hanging and having the life throttled out of them. Let's just pick it up with the two of you there.
That moment when the light leaves their eyes. It's fascinating, isn't it?
I would like for you to scar the reflection as well, Mr. Gennadios.
It's an overcast day, so maybe light would be a little generous to describe what's actually reflecting off of the eyes, but he's watching the face quite clearly, and he's almost forgotten about the camera, and just kind of just fixated on the man's eyes as he struggles, or as he succumbs.
And I think I am telling Mr. Gennadios about a particular part of the Bible in which it mentions that there's a moment at death when they become at one with God, and so all-knowing, and so you can ask them. It is said in the story that when you ask them a question, they're able to answer anything. And so when the light leaves their eyes, I ask them, "Where is the coven?"
Interesting. You're trying to get an information move out of this as well?
Yes. That's why I said it's like a very meta thing.
I mean, you could just take the clue, right? I mean, like, you could take the option that gives you the clue, since it's your vice. Mr. Janus, I would like for you to mark the reflection or scar the reflection for this. And I'm curious, as you take in the death of this individual, how does the sculpture reflect the stain on your soul?
All of his actions are so abstract. It's not easy to just map them to like a hand falls off, or but I think the eyes close on the statue.
Very good. Anything else that you all want in this scene? Are you good?
So I can just make up whatever clue
You just
about
make
the
up whatever
coven.
clue you want. Yeah.
And one of the other clues was it a clue that the water was running north?
Yes, that was a clue. The water running in a northerly direction on its own. But you can think on it. We can add it in before we end the session. Dr. Tagore, what would you like to do for the rest of the day phase?
Yeah, backtracking one moment, you had said, I believe, that I could take a part for the child from the.
Yes.
The,
yeah. What would you like to take
myself wrapping up some, 2 legs and some brown paper, tying it off the string, tucking it under my arm, and
Pate just giving you a salute as you walk out with a bundle of body parts.
Thanks, Pate. Pleasure to see you as always. I put the chair right back where I found it.
Give me a flashback about the
wipe it
deceased.
off?
How does handling the legs remind you of your sister?
Oh, playing once, we were kind of doing a version of hide and seek, and she dashed into some brambles, and they left a lot of small nicks and cuts, little driplets of blood, and some of the just the pristineness of these legs severed reminds me of the condition of her legs back at that time.
Very good. Yeah, so you're actually making some pretty decent progress on the body at this point. What would you like to do right now?
So that clue of the water flowing north seemed like a clue that could lead to another clue. So essentially, I'm looking for a clue regarding the coven, and that just seems like a logical thing to try and pursue. But I don't like,
So how do you do it?
Hydrology maps to figure out how water flows in the city, whether there's a low point to the north that it might be heading to, history of flooding, things like that. I don't know. Yeah,
I like it. Do an information move with reason.
I have a 2 reason. 9 + 2 is 11. The dice are great today.
Very nice. You can bump that if you want. Get a mastermind clue as well.
Remind me about how we bump. I don't recall.
You have to use Janus mask, either past or future.
And and it just bumps it immediately to a 12?
Or yeah, it takes it to the next highest tier, which is 12.
Next highest tier. Okay, got it. Sure, why not? Let's get some mastermind clues rolling. Janus mask, where are you? I went past it. 1 second. Yeah, let's tie this together. So I will check the mask of the past, the flashback for the first time you experienced love for the person you lost. And me hoofing it around the city here, remembering my sister with that bramble bush. Her legs got cut up a bit, but she came out with a double fistful of berries, and took those home and just sort of, rolled them up in a little bit of roti bread to make just a little spontaneous treat. And that sharing of the food that she brought berries out of what otherwise was a minor but injurious circumstance, that she turned that into something so sweet and delightful, made me realize just how much I love my sister.
A clue. Your rational brain is trying to make sense of something occurring as you go through these old plans and blueprints and maps and things, related to water in the city. But it's not, your logical mind is not able to process this right now, because there is no logical or reasonable explanation for it, which is in every document you look at while thinking about the coven, while thinking about the threat, every document is missing the number 6. So if there's an address with a 6 in it, the 6 is not there. If there's a measurement with a 6 in it, the 6 is not there. The 6s are just literally removed from the document. That's the clue. And I owe you a mastermind clue as well. You nod off in the middle of your studies, surrounded by magically altered documents, in the big chair in Hargrave House in the library, say, and you have a little dream. And in the dream, and I'll note here, this is only because you have the cosmic passage marked. No one else can find this clue. In the dream, people are fleeing in terror and screaming in pain as Buckingham Palace is consumed by sapphire blue flames. Willoughby, what would you like to do for the day phase, for the rest of it?
I have a question about answering a question, and I know exactly how that sounds. So for the Limehouse lurker, we haven't yet figured out if the vampire is young or old.
Correct.
Are we figuring out if this is an old vampire in a child's body, or I'm trying to
it's in a child's body no matter what. You're trying to figure out if it's a brand new vampire or an old vampire, because the approach is different depending on the answer.
Sure. Then I think I kind of want to answer that question based on the clues we have. I don't.
We're a little long in the session, but next time possibly.
Next time possibly.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Then in that case, I would just sit with because I investigated the bodies in the basement before the coven got me.
Mm-hmm.
I might just pursue that a little further to see if I can. Oh, that was a see if I can drum up one more clue.
You can just go to Jenny
Limehouse.
Johnston's and look
Yeah.
again.
And putter, like I didn't quite get a good look because I ran very
Away.
scared from the witches. So now
that makes sense. Yeah,
had my moment with Mr. Turner, he loaned me from his witch's cabinet some lavender ash. And now every morning when Willoughby wakes up, they're marking and smudging themselves with ash underneath their clothes as a ward against these witches. So now I feel confident enough that I can go back and do a little more investigating on that.
That's good. Yeah, Jenny Johnston will give you access to the bodies, no problem. They're not as in great condition as they were before, a number of days having passed.
Several days.
Yeah, but that said, and I think because of that and because of your turned stomach condition, I'm putting you at disadvantage on this roll. So you will roll 3 dice and take the 2 lowest. It's going to be with reason.
All right. Reason a 7.
Very good.
Please don't make the witches come back.
No. Let me look at the clues though.
It would be very complicated if they did.
You are investigating the bodies, not coming up with anything particularly interesting about the bodies. I mean, they're drained of their blood, as we know. But you'll notice that in the corner of the basement where the bodies are, painted on the walls are depictions of suns. But they're like multiple suns, different colors, like the suns of a different world. And you don't hear them because they step so softly on their silk slippers. But the man in the sun mask is down there with you. And he says, "What do you think of my work, this mural here?"
It does stir something in me. Obviously, something you are drawn to, given your visage.
I am fond of solar motifs. It is true. You have discovered me. No, this particular creation, the bodies told me about these suns. They whispered them to me. They whispered about the suns of another world.
Fascinating. The
complication I'm going to give you is the condition is just going to be called the suns of another world. But that's your clue as well.
And it is S-U-N. You're not punning.
S-U-N. No, S-U-N. Okay, good. Yeah. The clue is the bodies whispered about the suns of another world. And with that, I think we shall end the phase and the session.
Can I say what the clue is?
Yeah, let's do that now. Yeah, we have like 2 undefined clues at this point, so let's do that.
I owe 1 too, yeah.
Yeah.
I think instead of saying where's the coven, I say where's the ritual taking place, and as the man is like choking to death through a hoarse voice, he says, "Enter the spiral."
Oh, nice, good. Let's type that in. Fabulous. And what was the
I think that I owe 1.
Yeah, for the coven, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the nature of the colors of Mr. Turner's dreams and my own kind of research as well. I was trying to figure out how to apply lavender ash in a way that would ward off witches, led me to stumble across descriptions of rituals that involved prisms. So behind a source of light, just a rainbow shooting out of a prism, and a powerful magic that could occur.
Love it. Thank you. Do we have any Janus masks that needs to be resolved right now?
I have a quick question. There was a thing that I typed that I think is not actually a clue. When we were at the art exhibit, Theodora mentioned that she was meeting with the person in black veil later. I'm assuming that
is not a clue. No,
Okay,
that's just context. It's a lowercase c clue, maybe. And so let's have stars and wishes. Then I might have something at the end, maybe. Stars are things you enjoyed. Wishes are things that you hope to see next time. Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Star. Oh,
So go for it, Drew. Take it.
okay. Star for Willoughby's blank face stare down with the boy at the dice invite. That I quite enjoyed that. Also, the speaking to the hanged man scene was. I don't think Alexander will have seen something like that in all of his days. And also just a nice, wholesome time between Dr. Tagore and Alexander. That was a lot of fun to chat as they're posing this poor dead Edgar. And I really enjoy every time Theodora shows up. It's great. And I like that Alexander might have a bit of a crush.
Stars for me, there were so many good individual scenes in this session. I could give stars to all of them. The real standouts for me were the scene between, I liked both of the vulnerable move scenes. Those were really good. I really, in particular, liked the scene with Dr. Tagore and Alexander. That was quite enjoyable at the mortuary. I love the scene between Dr. Tagore and Gregory. I thought that was a great scene. It was fun to play. I loved the encounter with the witch during the ritual. That was pretty badass. It was a very like metal kind of scene. I was super here for it. I like how it all played out. And yeah, I also really enjoyed the stare down with the dapper boy. I thought that was quite good. But all around, just so many good scenes, so many great Janus mask descriptions of like flashbacks and stuff. So I loved all that. Yeah, everything just was hitting really well, like it has been the whole time. But and more today. For wishes, I'm very interested to see. I'm interested to see like a good like heroic use of My Person Friday. I think we haven't quite seen that yet, and I want that moment. And then I am interested in seeing a scene between Dr. Tagore and the child. That I want that scene. I want to see the lab, and I want to see more of Alexander and Alexander's worshippers. That's always very, very fun. And for Mr. Turner, Fraser, you're hitting all your stuff really, really well. So I don't know if I have a wish here necessarily, except to say that I want to see a beacon in the dark in the context of the Fig family. I think that would be really fun if that happens. We'll see. But more pies for the pie makers. But yeah, it's a great session overall. Yeah.
Clearly, I'm a sucker for a good sound effect, and the tapping on the black egg that got me. Like that's just so simple and ominous. It's really nice. And similarly, Fraser's scene with the interrogating the hanged man is just like I can see it. It's just too good. Willoughby's beef with that dapper lad was amazing. It's the ongoing, and I know it didn't quite happen, but were this a movie, I would edit it to make this scene that you described, Sarah, of Willoughby tossing dice as the carriage rolls away. It's just amazing.
Like a deep cut like background scene. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
For the astute viewer.
Yeah. And Drew, that the postage stamp corset is just flawless. Like that was I can picture it in my mind. And it was ridiculous, but in just the right way. You know what I mean?
Any stars or wishes?
Stars for me, just the whole setting at the warehouse, the mannequins and the dripping and the bleeding or like quintet or however many musicians
the
there were,
quartet, with their wrapped faces.
So good. And I'm really enjoying that the gore is starting to kind of get a little bit more subsumed in how we're playing, because when Dr. Tagore wrapped those legs in butcher paper after we had already just had the figs introduced, that I and Willoughby both have turned stomachs now. It's just really good.
I just think it's hilarious that you all are like, the Hargrave House has to stop all these people, and Hargrave House is just as bad. Like, you all are equally horrible.
Wishes. I am looking forward to flushing out Willoughby's relationship with Alexander a little bit more, how they are in private with each other. I think is going to be really interesting for me to play. But also now that he's feeling slighted, I mean, Willoughby left for a couple of days, is constantly drinking with Mr. Turner. And I think that there's a lot of really good role play that's happening there. Well, that will be happening. We're setting the scene pretty well.
Fraser, any stars or wishes?
Yeah, I have a few. So Willoughby's intriguing not eating any of the food really piqued my interest in a way that I was like, this is the right kind of dissonance between I really want to know the thing, but I can't know the thing about the character. And also just making everybody else uncomfortable, but we give no fucks. That was very fun. Dr. Tagore's hair description things really set the tone at the beginning of the session with the describing what the hair was, but not like just the connection between the hair and the past. It's another thing where I'm like, it's so good in this game that we have to wait to find out about the character's past when there's such like heavy allusion to what the context could be, but we don't know it yet. And then I was actually really kind of moved by the taking the picture of the hanged man with Alexander, because there's so much unsaid context for why he would want to be doing that doesn't need to be verbalized at all. Like the light leaving the eyes, yes, but like also kind of gives context to why that vice might be happening as well. Like, oh, he wants to experience death possibly, and then there's like this undying image of it forever of death as well. So I thought that was really cool. And then a wish, I think it's going to happen anyway, but putting the clues together for the coven. There's so many interesting ones, and I didn't realize that it's only complexity 4, so we've got a lot of clues.
Is it only 4? I thought it was 6. Is it not?
Well, it says 4 for when and where the final step of the grand ritual takes place.
Oh, that's a mistype because it's supposed to be it's 6. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're clipping along nicely.
You are indeed, yes. If there's no more stars and wishes, I'm going to have a little epilogue scene here, or a little post-credits scene, if you will. That manor house out in the country, Brathwaite Hall. It's nighttime. We see Theodore Brathwaite sitting in her wingback chair with that huge map of London in front of her. And she's talking to someone who we can't see. We just see her, but she's talking to someone who's off screen. She says, "The witches declined my offer. I think they were offended by my capitalistic impulses. They may be trouble in the future, but I'm not too worried about it. I have a feeling Hargrave House will dispatch them easily enough. But that means I now need you to enact the next step of my plan. But of course, this will be a fair trade. And stepping into the frame is a child, a boy, no more than 10 or 11 years old, very pale. Theodora extends her hand to the child and almost like pulls him up in her lap, right? And she says, now, drink lustily, but not greedily, please. And she undoes the sapphire choker, that glimmering blue gem, and takes it off, exposing a throbbing vein. And the boy sinks his teeth into her neck and begins to drink. And she says, gently, gently. Good, good. Now, if you're feeling quite sated, we have to get to work. The Limehouse lurker is no longer an active threat. And so that ends the session. Thank you all so much, and I look forward to next week.